Hello, today we are going to learn a new chapter called Nicobobinus, which is about an extraordinary boy or a child. And in the first sentence of the chapter, it is said that he can stick his tongue out at the prime minister, which shows that how brave or how notorious he could be. All right, he's fearless and he could do anything. Right now, um, there is somebody else who can vouch for the same. Others don't know much about him, but his best friend Rosie knows about him. What kind of a boy is he? Now let's see how many characters do we have in this story. Right, so the main characters include Nicobobinus himself, okay, who's this boy who is extraordinary, and then he has his best friend Rosie. And then we have the night watchman for a brief period of time. And then we have the man. Okay, now there's no name to this person, the man, but we're going to read about how important are these characters. Okay, so let's see. Here in the chapter, it is written that Nicobobinus was an extraordinary child, and he lived in a city called Venice, which is in Italy, right? And he was extraordinary. Nobody else knew it except for his best friend, whose name is Rosie. Rosie always believed that he was different from everyone else, and she also believed that he could do anything that she wished. Okay, and nobody liked Rosie as well, and nobody knew much about her because she also was known for having wild ideas. Okay, so one day, for example, Rosie asked Nicobobinus. She had a very wild idea, and she said, "Oh, let's pick up every single weed on your doorstep." Well, that's something practically impossible to do. Weed means plants which are unwanted. Okay, so when farmers see weeds in their fields, they quickly pick them out, all right, and throw them away. So she wanted to do this job, and then Nicobobinus told her that's ridiculous. So he uses a particular word for that, which is daft, means ridiculous, absolutely absurd. And then she proposes another thing. Okay, she says, okay, then let's discover the land of dragons. Again, Nicobobinus finds it very silly, and he says, how can we do that? He said. Then Rosie says, yes, we can do that because you can do anything. And she believed in him that he could do anything. And then that conversation went on like that. And Nicobobinus and Rosie went back to their homes. The early next morning, this girl Rosie comes with a bag of buns and lemonade, and she wakes him up from his sleep and invites him to come with her to discover the land of dragons. Nicobobinus thought that she must have forgotten it, but actually she hadn't, and she was quite serious about what she told him. So both of them, they start going to discover the land of dragons. When the night watchman caught hold of them, it was very early in the morning, so he was surprised to see these kids walking around. So he stopped them, and he interrogated them, and he wanted to ask them, where are you people going? But before he could say anything, both of them sprinted away. Sprinting means running, okay? So they both ran away from that place. And they kept running, and they crossed three bridges. And after they crossed three bridges, they tripped over a dog which was lying under a garden wall. And when they hit the dog woke up very violently, and he barked ferociously. And here they have used the term dog's doomsday. The dog was barking as if it was the dog's doomsday, means as if it was his last day and he is going to die after that. He was so furious. And they thought that the dog is going to bite them and eat them up, right? But actually, the dog wanted to eat the buns. As soon as he got the buns, the dog was silent and he started eating them. However, now they were out of supply. They out of supply of food. They had those buns and lemonade to eat. Now they don't have anything. So Nicobobinus proposes, he advises, and he sees that there's an apple tree, and he wishes that they could have some apples from that garden wall. And he says, "Could we have that? I wonder if I could pick a few of those." And Rosie always supported his ideas, and she quickly told him, "Yes, why not? You can do anything." And she offered her shoulders to him and said, "You can stand on my shoulders and try to pick these apples." When he was trying to pick these apples, because the garden wall was too high, he fell on the other side of the wall and he was caught by a man. And who is this man? This man is someone who takes care of the garden, or maybe who is the owner of the garden. He catches hold of Nicobobinus, and Nicobobinus could feel 5 thick fingers around his neck. And the man says, I was looking for you, and you were here, you were stealing my apples." And he was about to punish Nicobobinus, and Nicobobinus had to save him. He had to be quick. All right, so what did he do? He doubled himself up. Okay, the double himself up means that he stood in such a way that he stooped low, and then he started running backwards. And in that process, the man couldn't even actually understand what exactly he did. He was knocked from under, and he landed in a pile of leaves. And Rosie, when she heard the noise, she quickly asked if he was all right. And then Nicobominus was on his feet. He ran very fast. He ran away from that man. And the man also started chasing both of them. Okay, Rosie was on the other side of the wall, so he could only chase Nicobobinus. And then Rosie could understand that Nicobobinus was in trouble, in a big trouble, right? Nicobobinus ran as fast as he could across the lawn, down the path, round a hedge, and in a little shed, and bolted the door. So he hid himself in a shed. A shed is a very small house like structure, but you can't call it a house exactly because it's just maybe one room, and it's meant to be a place where tools or small animals could also be kept sometimes. That door's not going to last long. So as soon as he went inside the shed, he locked it and he did not open it. The man wanted him to open the door, but he did not open the door. And then he says, "Eventually, you'll have to come out, and the longer you leave it, the worse it will be for you." So the man is warning him that you better come out quickly, because if you take it too long, then you will have bitter punishment from me. So I'm going to punish you more severely. But he could have saved his bread. Nicobobinus was on his knees examining what he had revealed when he moved the roller. He brushed off the dust and under, catch, then lifted it up. See, some of the words are missing here. So Nicobobinus discovers something which was on the ground, and it was full of dust. Okay, and it could have been a secret door, or a passage. So he quickly opens that, and he had to save himself from this man who was following him. So he just opens it, and then he gets into it. Right, I'm going to break this door down. The man is shouting like that, okay? And then because he knew he'd have to repair the door himself, he added, "Do you hear?" So the man knew that if he broke open the door, then he also had a task to do. He had to repair the door. So he did not actually want to break the door, but he had to warn this child who was now inside, and the man had to punish him. But Nicobobinus didn't hear. Nicobobinus had disappeared through the trap door he had discovered and was running down stone steps. So now he was into some stone steps, and he started climbing down those stone steps. The steps were slippery with slime, and it smelled like graveyard. Graveyard means a place where people are burnt or buried after they die, right? Rosie, said Nicobobinus. So now Rosie is not here with him. Okay, Rosie is he's only remembering Rosie. Rosie is in the other side of the garden, and he is actually very angry on Rosie. This is all your fault. So he's blaming her for whatever is happening to him right now. He heard his heart pounding and his steps echoing along the dark rock of narrow passageway until all at once there was nothing, and before he realized, he was falling in the blackness. So he was falling down and down and down after he started climbing down those stairs. And while he was falling down, in it could it is a well where he was falling down. He had three thoughts. The first thought was bother. Bother means he was imagining that he's having such difficult time right now, and he is wondering what more worse things, what worse could happen now. Okay. Second one was a rather unkind thought. It was, he knew that it was not good of him to think like that, but he wished that uh, Rosie suffered. Okay. And he said that he wished that it involved, he wished that she was dangling over a snake pit while numerous fierce dragons flew at her chanting. And this is what he's wishing something bad happens to Rosie, because of Rosie he's in trouble today. And the third thought was, suppose it's a well, suppose it's a well, a deep unused well with slimy slippery sides that you could never climb, and icy water at the bottom of that. At this point, he discovered it was not a well. He made this discovery very suddenly and very painfully. So he first thought that it was a well that he was falling into, and he thought that, oh God, it's so deep, and it's so slimy and dirty and smelly. And he was wondering if there is icy cold water inside it, and how is he going to survive in it. But thankfully, it was not a well. Off, said Nicobobinus, and he lay there in the pitch blackness with not a single breath left in his body for what seemed like the whole winter, but was probably only a few seconds. So he just fell down with a thud. Okay. And he came to himself, in fact, just as a stone hit him on the head. So he hurt his head, but he was all in his senses. And he now could hear the footsteps of that man who was following him. Remember, he was asking him to open the door, and now he is also following Nicobobinus, and he was almost on the same way where Nicobobinus was walking through. Now, Nicobobinus wanted to warn him not to come to this place, otherwise, he will also have the bad fate. He will fall down and get hurt. But the man did not hear, and he kept on coming. And then Nicobobinus, I shall beat every bone. So the man was so angry that he never bothered to listen to him. And he says, aha, I have got you now, cried the man, and I shall beat every bone in your body. So this is an idiom that they have used. I shall beat every bone in your body until it is black and blue. That means to beat someone very badly or cruelly. Nicobobinus supposed the man was going to say blue, but in fact, the next word he uttered sound more like buck, 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 buck. That means this is the time when this man was falling down from the pit, from the steps, right? And crash, he fell down. And Nicobobinus asked him if he was all right. There was silence. The man did not say anything, and he was lying in that pitch dark place, and he was almost motionless, there as lifeless, right? And when he found it, however, his heart sank. I must get help, said Nicobobinus to himself, and he began groping around in the blackness to find another way out. Okay, so it was very dark, and it was stinky, right? And now there's this man who's injured, and he was there, and he did not know if this man had died or what. Now he had to find a way out. When he found out, however, his heart sank. The only exit appeared to be a narrow gap. Again, his heart sank is another idiom that they have used. His heart sank means when he was feeling very disappointed and depressed. And now Nicobobinus had to find a way out of this place. And the only exit means the place through which you are going out, right? So it appeared to be a narrow gap down by the floor, no more than a foot high. So a person cannot stand there. I can't squirm through that in the pitch dark, he said to himself. But at that very moment, he he heard Rosie's cheerful voice saying, "You can do it." So this is when Rosie's words came in handy for him. And when he was just about to think that, no, this is impossible, I cannot squirm through, I cannot crawl through this small passage, how can I do it? But then Rosie's voice rang in his mind, and she was telling him, you can do it. But this is not literally her in front of him, okay? He's only imagining her. Nicobobinus span around, and there, to his immense surprise, was nothing. No Rosie, no anybody. But I don't know if it leads anywhere, he said to the voice in his head. And it's such a tight squeeze, I might get stuck. So he knows that this passage, going through the passage, is almost an impossible task, but he still does it nevertheless. He didn't hear Rosie's voice again, but he knew what it would have said. So he knew that Rosie would always encourage him and motivate him when he wanted to do something. So he crawls down. Oh, he said, although. So he just kept wriggling and squirming until suddenly he found he could not stand up. So he could not stand up. He was wriggling and squirming. So he was crawling. He took a pace forward and immediately fell over the stone steps leading up. Now it was dark and the man was lying there, and he had to find an exit. So he kept looking for it. He came across a passage. When he squirmed through it, he again found those stone steps. And then he thanked goodness. Although he says, "Oh," here, and it sounds like he was having another painful experience, but he was actually thanking God. He began to climb, and he was still climbing some minutes later. It must be a tower, he thought. So when he was climbing up the stairs, he thought it must be a very tall tower or the grandest house in Venice. So he assumed that it is a very grand house that he is going into. But at that very moment, he saw a crack of light. Suddenly, the darkness was gone, and he could see a very light, thin light coming from above. Right. So he stretched out his hand and found himself touching a catch that clicked softly in the dark. So it was like a small opening of something, right? Or maybe a door or a window. So he slid open. It was a panel which he got hold of, and he opened it. When he slid open it, he found himself in an amazing room, and he never saw a room as amazing as that. And this is where the story ends right now. However, again, this is a small part of a very big novel called Nicobobinus. There's also a nice movie that has been made on this movie. So this is about it in this worksheet, in this lesson. Now, I have also attached a worksheet which will come in handy for you to comprehend this story more. Whatever you have studied here today, if you solve that worksheet, it has all multiple choice questions. If you solve it, then you will find it easier to understand the whole chapter. Just go to the description box, and there's a link that I have pasted. You can just copy and paste that link, and it's a live worksheet. Attempt it, and you will be scored. Okay, and you will understand how much have you understood. You will get to know how much you have understood from this chapter. Okay, keep watching my videos, and I'll come up with a new lesson very soon.